Welcome, everybody, to the debut episode of the Cleanup Step. We're your hosts. I'm Kyle Bloomquist.
I'm Justin.
And I'm Albert.
And we're here today to talk about a lot of things going on in Magic right now. But first, to start with a little intro, we're going to give you a little bit of fun fact about each other, let you know a little bit about where we come from, how we got into Magic. We're going to talk about the set we started on. I started on... in Magic originally around the time of Onslaught. Slivers was one of my first decks, and Wizards was one of my first decks that I brought to a tournament after that. What about you, Justin?
I started during Scars of Mirrodin back in 2010. At the time, it was still a side game I played because I also played Pokemon competitively. And around Khans of Tarkir, I quit Pokemon and went into Magic full time.
And I actually started playing Magic around Battle for Zendikar Origins. I had originally started playing Yu-Gi-Oh, and I saw what it was like there, and then I noticed the game wasn't my speed, and then I got to Magic during that time, and it was actually a very good change of pace. So that's what rocketed me into Magic.
Okay. So Albert's the baby of the group then.
Yeah.
Hey.
The youngest one to Magic, and actually the youngest one.
Actually, though.
It is cool that we are coming from different backgrounds. Like Kyle is a bit of a Magic old guard. I'm coming from Pokemon, and and Albert's coming from Yu-Gi-Oh. So that is pretty interesting.
Old guard. I just started playing Legacy. You want to talk about old guards? All right. So our first topic that we want to talk about today, now that we've had a chance to really get our hands in and get a little bit dirty with it, is drafting Unstable. And we're going to start with kind of what we thought about going into Unstable, and then we'll lead into what the actual experience was. Why don't you start, Justin? What did you think about Unstable?
So I've only drafted it once last Friday, and I loved it. It was a blast. And I could tell other people felt the same way. The store was packed. Everyone was having a good time. Everyone was laughing. I drafted a really silly Jund dice rolling deck, and it turned out pretty good. I ended up going 3-0. So, what about you, Kyle? I know you drafted it twice, so.
Yeah. So I echo what you said. The store was pretty packed. Even on the Saturday morning tournament fired bright and early at 11. So I drafted it twice. Once, did you beat me, or was it Min?
I believe it was Min with that stupid contraption that makes fairies. That thing is so strong.
Yeah, all right. So I went 2-1 on the day one, and then I went 3-0 the next day. The first one I tried to go Order of the Widget, heavy on contraptions and contraption makers. And that worked mostly well. There is a lot of things that deal with artifacts, and when all of your creatures are artifacts, it can be a problem. And then I learned from that, and on day 2, I went pretty heavy onto Augment, making sure to pick up 2 of those pangolins that kill artifacts.
Yeah, I felt that pangolin was such a high pick. I ended up picking 2, and it did work. It did a lot of work.
I didn't see mine, but if I had, they would have done even more work. So yeah, going into it, I felt like I was going to enjoy it. I don't think I realized exactly how much I would enjoy it. It's a really fun set. There's a lot of things that you can do with it, and I like the versatility that you have, where you don't have to go quite as hard on every synergy, because the cards have enough cross synergy that you can make the deck that gets passed to you and not have to try and force anything as you get into the later second and third pack.
Yeah, I did feel that the 5 factions were fairly balanced. Like the Augment guys were prime subjects, prime targets for 2-for-1s. But when you did get your Augment guy and made and augmented it with a really good combo, it pulled you it pulled you in terms of board state and card advantage super heavily.
All right, so Albert, are you planning on drafting Unstable anytime soon?
I do have intent. if that counts.
It does. That's what we're looking for.
Yeah.
Honestly, after hearing about how much fun it was, I do want to. I actually haven't played with an unset. I've only heard horror stories, but basically what you guys were saying makes it seem as if this one's very, very friendly to people who are into weird and wacky things.
Is there a particular thing you want to do when you draft Unstable? Like any of the different like mechanics you want to go into?
Actually, I haven't fully seen all of them yet, but I noticed that with the contraptions, those seem really, really interesting. I'm not entirely sure how they work completely, so it caught my eye, and I was like, these cards look different. Whoa! So I probably want to play around with those. But what about you guys? Do you guys have any recommendations for the first time I draft? What to start off with? What to look for?
So I saw dice rolling do some pretty dumb things.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the benefits of a lot of the dice rolling cards is they don't care if you rolled the dice. So
Okay.
you get to like double up on things. Like if your opponent goes to go to gels your creature, which makes you roll 2 dice and try to get doubles like Monopoly at the beginning of your upkeep. If they go to gel your guy and then you drop like that squirrel that says if you roll 5 on a dice or higher, give them a +1/+1 counter. No, that's a camel, isn't it?
Yeah, it's also the monkey.
Oh yeah, there's tons of things that do similar effects, and it can get real out of control real fast. That being said, just by my nature, I tend to kind of sort of steer away from RNG-based stuff because it bites you theoretically almost as often as it doesn't. So I leaned a little bit more toward Augment, which I think is a little bit more of a like technically difficult thing to draft because you've got to be able to figure out what colors you're going to be able to make work. They're across more colors than a lot of the other mechanics. So that was one thing. I feel like you could get dried out of augments real fast, though there are tons of hosts. I had 3 augments for my whole deck.
I do want to say there are certain cards in the dice rolling deck that pull it less out of the RNG range.
Yeah,
like I believe there's that 3-mana enchantment that's a squirrel-powered scheme where all your dice rolls get +2 added to them.
But the real MVP is Snickering Squirrel.
Oh, Snickering Squirrel's so good.
I'll tell you though, the one thing I will say is when I turn 1 Snickering Squirrel, turn 2 Inhumaniac, I just feel like I've already won.
Yep. Oh my god. I've domed people for 7 on turn 3 with that stupid combo. Like it was crazy. Like just in general, I would say my advice for you is to stick with the traditional bombs removal, that kind of cabs that a lot of people do swear by, and also try to draft a fairly synergistic deck, but that's also par for the course when it comes to drafting.
Right. Okay.
And why don't we have Trample on Instants and Sorceries?
Oh, that
already?
was great.
That card is genuinely fun and like genuinely, I think, a reasonable mechanic to consider being a thing.
If you don't know what we're talking about, there's a burn spell in the set that has Trample on it.
What?
So if it doesn't feel if you hit a 3/3 with it, that 1 damage is gonna trample over and hit your opponent. So I honestly believe that we will be seeing something like that in the future in a black bordered set. It was really sweet.
Super Duper Death Ray. It's 2 and a red. At instant speed, it deals 4 damage to target creature, and it has Trample. So one key thing to note here is that you can't just target a person's face with it. You have to have a creature to target to trample over.
That's
Good
really,
stuff.
really interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, it turned out to feel pretty good, actually. Like, it's just a way of saying, hey, I have 3 mana, and I want to kill your 2/2, but I want to not feel bad about spending 4 damage to kill it, and it feels real not bad. It's
Also,
really nice.
a big thing, don't make too many enemies. if you, because there's a lot of cards in the set that requires a person from outside of your game to come and interact. And there's so many times during the draft where I made so many enemies with the people around me that my opponent would occasionally just target one of them to disrupt my board, and they would do everything they can to mess my hand up and mess my board up.
Yeah, I was pretty sure that if I got Kindslavered, it was going to be bad. Then my opponent picked the one person who probably wasn't going to just sit down and wreck me as a matter of principle.
What was it? There was a game where I was chosen to take a card from my opponent's hand and discard it.
Right.
And I ended up taking it was take a card from my opponent's hand and show it to that person.
Mm-hmm.
And I ended up taking a basic land and showing it to the guy, and my opponent was not happy. The opponent in the other game was not happy for the fact that I gave him no information. So when the same thing happened to me, and he was forced to do horrible things to me, he took that chance to just mess me up.
So you chose not to be a good friend, Justin.
Yeah.
All right. So, staying kind of on the topic of unstable, now that we've seen the cards in action, let's talk about using them in Commander. And because we've got about a month, right? About a month from today, if I'm not mistaken. We got about a month left to use it. None of us, I don't think, have actually used it yet.
Not yet.
I know Mike has splashed a couple cards, and I've seen a couple cards run, but it's not an undeck. It just happened to take some of the uncards that were a little bit added a little bit of flavor, but not actually did silly ridiculous things.
So I know when the announcement was first made, you were very down on the announcement.
Okay. So yes. My opinion when the announcement first came out was nah. I'll just maybe abstain during those games because ultimately it's the temporary aspect of it that I wasn't into. I was thinking about okay, what happens if I buy uncards to or packs or take what I draft and try to slot it into my commander? What does that look like? Is it worth getting the cards to make something happen? And I was looking at that and thinking, it's only going to be around for a month, and I think it shouldn't go past that. Maybe selectively, but we'll go into that maybe a little bit later on. But I was not super hyped about it. But then I decided that I really liked the lands. So I got a bunch of unstable in order mostly to get the lands, and the foil tokens are pretty nice too. And suddenly now it's not a question of am I going to make an investment in getting the stuff, but it's a question of am I going to look through these cards and pick some interesting things. So I wasn't down on the announcement, on the idea of inclusion into Commander. I was just not really willing to kind of put in at the time what I thought was going to be an extra investment to get there. But then I bought enough unset that it isn't going to really make a difference.
Plus, it looks like a lot of these cards are relatively cheap. Most of the set, discounting the lands, looks to be under $1, singles.
Yeah, but at that time I'm looking at as $1 to buy something that will become
that's true.
Recycling paper after a month.
That's true.
And that still is the case, but now I've got awesome lands. So that's
I mean,
good.
There are a lot of people looking to make cubes with the unstable set.
I could see that. I can definitely see that being a thing. It won't drive the price up, I don't think.
No.
But, that being said, now let's talk about where I am now versus where I was before. Now, I am still of the opinion that this should remain a temporary thing. And if I had to say either all or none, I would go none. I think there are some cards that are reasonable and maybe play groups might want to just be okay with, make clear that they're okay with. Obviously, Crowstorm is just it's a flavor win. It's pretty much on par with cards that already exist, like Empty the Warrens. That makes 2 1/1s. This makes a 1/2 flyer. It's fine. But it could be difficult to selectively allow. That adds a lot of cards to a list that doesn't exist right now. Right now, the ban list exists, and you can't just make a ban list with every card but the 10 or 20 and unstable that are reasonable.
Yeah. I'm with you there, but I do hope that like later down the line they take this information and do unban certain cards from unstable. Like especially just because like certain cards like Griselda and like some of the like a lot of the augment stuff isn't necessarily broken.
See, that's more the line of the stuff I would try and avoid. Not to mention, like for other reasons too, is in order to get those cards in, you kind of have to get all those cards in because there's not enough.
True, yeah.
There's not enough synergy to really theme around it. So you just be picking and choosing like small mechanics from it, and I'm not.
I understand. I sort of agree with that. It's just like a month down the line, if they do announce that like a very select handful of cards are allowed in Commander going forward, I'm not going to be that down on it. I'm not going to be that sad about it. But I also plan on making an unstable, like an uncommander deck, and having it built even after the date it's no longer allowed, just because I know a lot of people in a lot of play groups are going to keep theirs still built.
That's fair, yeah. I'm probably not going to take mine apart, but I don't think I'll be making any new ones or making any adjustments after the month is over. And I won't be down on them letting certain cards in if they're the right choices.
Yeah. The rules committee, unlike the unbanning, should probably do a little bit of research before they unban more cards in the future, I feel.
They've historically been pretty good about
that.
Yeah.
Except for Protean Hulk.
Well, I mean, I know somebody at this table who is pretty all right with Protean Hulk.
Somebody? No, not at all. What? And maybe they'll actually call the list the unbanning.
Oh, okay.
All right. But all
Okay.
right. So, let's talk about, it sounds like you've got ideas for your deck. What are you doing?
So I was looking into making I really, really wanted to make an augment deck, because I think either augment or dice rolling, but augment seems more like my kind of silly style. And I was going to make it very much like a group hug deck. And unfortunately, I can't use Jumble Morph because he's only 2 colors. So I was looking into maybe a 4 or 5 color augment deck. But like dice rolling, I feel that is very like a bit vanilla for a commander deck. It seems a little boring, especially like if I were to make a dice rolling deck, it'd probably be based around Big Idea, and he's just a token deck but in different colors.
Oh, watch out, all you dice rolling people! Justin's calling you out.
No, I love dice rolling, but it's just not my kind of style. And I think the flexibility of augment opens the doors for very, very like specific situations. Like, hey, I need this, right? Like, I need this in this specific circumstance, so you can go search it out and augment a creature with it.
I mean, I'm still on fast bond, or put spike in, get fast bond, then augment the creature that says when you put a land into play, go search your library for a land.
You're gonna be that guy, aren't you?
No, definitely not. Mostly because I don't feel like explaining spike to anybody or trying to get people okay with a sideboard, even though we kind of have allowed wish cards in the past.
Yeah.
It's just, it's not really that interesting, I think, to go the spike route. It's a little, everything becomes a little obvious because your list is only the ban list, and
and like
also what you can afford.
You have
from
to
the ban
show
list.
those cards to your opponents before the game even starts.
Yeah, well, it does depend on the play group, because technically Spike doesn't even really get by this unbanning because it's already up to the play group as to whether or not to allow wish cards at all.
Exactly.
So for me, my line that I'm working, so I've kind of got 2 things going. The tamer one is Urza, just Urza super friends. Like, it's pretty straightforward. But the more interesting one that has been really difficult to get up and running is Baron von Count.
Oh, yeah. Where you just eliminate a person from the game.
Yeah, where you destroy target player, a wording that they intentionally chose to avoid before, with door to nothingness. It used to say destroy target player, and it got changed to target player loses the game. They've gone back and said the unset is the place to have a card that destroys target player.
Oh my God.
Which, be noted, they can be regenerated.
Oh.
There's nothing that does that,
Yeah,
but they could be.
that's true.
That's something that I believe it was Mark Rosewater pointed out in his FAQ letter article that I really wish I had noticed and seen before the unset dropped, because there was a lot of great information in there for card interactions, including our favorite, Cramped Bunker.
Oh my.
So, question about that. If it destroys a player, does Platinum Angel still work? Because they're destroyed. They're not there anymore. Or is it just they lose the game? Because that'd be a lot less fun.
Huh.
You know, I don't know the answer to that right now. Let's circle back on that, and we'll look into it. Maybe we'll follow up on next week's episode.
I'm just salty that during the draft, I managed to have 2 separate opponents get around my Cramped Bunker strategy. Because I managed to draft 2 Cramped Bunkers, and the first guy decides to start propping cards up with his dice. And then the second guy decides to, like, take sleeves, like extra sleeves from his deck, and start balancing cards on top of the extra sleeves so they don't, like... So it's like a sandwich of sleeves between cards.
Well, that's being real liberal with the reading of it.
His reactions look, well, the cards aren't technically touching.
Well, by that logic, no card is ever touching if you play with sleeves. So it's a little bit.
Yeah.
That's a little bit too far, I think, to take the.
The dice
unstable
one was
logic.
pretty sweet though, where he would just like make a pyramid of dice and have cards, like making sure the cards don't touch using the pyramid of dice.
Yeah, I was pretty stoked on that one when you showed it to me, because when we talked about the set originally, I looked at Cramped Bunker and said, well, that seems broken because it says any permanent, not just yours. And then it was interesting to see people find, including myself, find ways around it, such as holding the card in place.
There was
its
also
edge.
What was it? One of my opponents managed to like put the card perfectly on top of Cramped Bunker, and then on his next upkeep, he just swapped out the card for another card, and he's like, well, you know, the Cramped Bunker isn't very specific on whether like I'm allowed to pull away cards or not, and I just sat there, well, I just spent 5 mana to take away a guy's land. Although, like, my favorite part, though, was, what was it? There was a guy that drafted Urza and managed to ultimate him twice and get, like, I believe one of them was the Mind Sculptor ultimate.
Yep, it sure was.
And then I forgot what the other one was, but they were both really sweet and just, like, wrecked his opponents.
I didn't hear about the second ult, but he did, an opponent split-screened.
Oh yeah. The mill one.
And he hit the minus on Jace to Milton cards, which happened to be the exact number.
Yeah.
Or no, it wasn't a split screen. It was the team up card.
Yeah.
Two-headed giant. The two-headed giant. The better than one card. Better than one. It's a green and a white sorcery. A person outside the game becomes your teammate, which means you choose any number of cards in your hand, library, on the battlefield, and that becomes that player's kind of board state at that point, and they become your two-headed giant partner, effectively. And that was... So he did that, but then he milled one of the decks, because at that point it was too small to deal with the Jace minus, the Milton. Now, circling back, looking at the FAQ on Baron von Count, it appears that it is, quote, just a more dastardly way to say target player loses the game. It is weird that Platinum Angel would get around it in the same way, just because of how destroy effects might work versus just the target player loses the game. But I think pretty much target player loses the game. So Platinum Angel will save you. The cat's out of the bag. I'm going to come here. We're going to play on Mander on Wednesday, and everybody's going to have Platinum Angel in their deck. And I am going to be packing Artifact Destruction, because screw you guys. What about you, Albert? You looking at anything?
So, I have no ideas for the Unmander.
Play one draft, you'll get there.
Yeah,
I mean, at least the
I'm
store is
seeing
gonna
that.
have participation like packs for Unmander. So
Although I do want to make an Unmander deck. That sounds like a lot of fun.
All right. So, unless anybody had anything else they wanted to talk about in relation to the unset, I think it's time to move on to the future. The future, which is Rivals of Ixalan. We've got a few cards in front of us right here, and then we also have some spoilers that we've seen on the internet. We're just looking at the promos right now, and I'm gonna start with the first card that I saw in the spoilers, which is Immortal Sun. So Immortal Sun, it's an artifact. It costs 6 mana. It's a legendary artifact. And it says, players can't activate loyalty abilities of Planeswalkers. At the beginning of your draw step, draw an additional card. Spells you cast cost 1 less to cast, and creatures you control get +1/+1. So, it's all the things.
All of the things.
It is...
Commander players are losing their minds right now.
Yes.
Okay, yes. Let's remember it cost 6 mana. And not all of these abilities inherently are going to be cohesive. For example, some of the abilities, like, spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. Just having a 6-drop artifact in general says, like, I'm going to be a little bit control-y, right? I might be doing some control. Well, you better do it without Planeswalkers, because that's a symmetrical effect. You can't use your Planeswalkers if you play Immortal Sun. Maybe you've got the beginning of your draw step, draw an additional card. That's more of a group hugs theme in Commander anyway. And group hugs a lot of times isn't really pumping out a ton of tokens, which is what's going to be the Glorious Anthem effect.
But it's not,
It says only your draw
only
step.
me.
It's not
All the draws are for me.
It's not a.
Oh, right,
the
yeah.
mine.
So that's another control.
Yeah.
That's
it's not
another
a howling
control
mine.
thing.
Yeah.
Then you've got the Helm of Awakening, which is spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. I'm just saying, I think it looks really fun because you're like, oh man, I played a deck that loved that effect. I played an effect like spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. Where do we see that in? Like every Storm deck in Commander. What do you not see in any of those Storm decks? 6-drop artifacts. That's what. So.
Well, to me, it just looks like a souped-up Staff of Nin. Like, any deck I'm going to be playing Staff of Nin, and I'm going to take it out and just replace it with this.
Okay, that. Well, not if that deck has a bunch of Planeswalkers.
That's sort of true.
When you play a Staff of Nin, you don't shoot yourself in the foot when you play it and not be able to use, say, 4 cards from your deck, even thinking, like, really conservatively.
Well, that's up to you when you're building your deck, then, whether you want to have Planeswalkers with this card or not.
Yeah, well, that's my point though. Is like I think when I first saw this card, I felt a little joy. But as I thought about it more, I think you're gonna see it. We're gonna see it a lot less than people initially might be indicating.
Yeah, it's not as broken. Like it's not as powerful as something like Panharmonicon or Paradox Engine that we've seen in the past.
Oh, Paradox Engine.
Fair.
Paradox Engine.
Hey, that's my favorite card. Don't talk bad about it.
Which
That's
is
why I said
exactly why.
But the way I see this card is, so everything on there are 2-cost artifacts. Think about it. Creatures you control get +1/+1. I've seen a 2-cost artifact with that. Every single medallion, 2-cost artifact. At the beginning of your draw step, draw an additional card. Howling Mine, but for myself, 2-cost artifact. And then you can shut off Planeswalkers. I think it's very valid in its cost.
Yeah, its cost is definitely reasonable for what it does. I just think that slot is not going to go to it as often as many people might think.
I agree with you. You have to take care when you are putting it in your deck that it interacts well with the other cards in your deck. Like if you're a very Planeswalker heavy centric deck, this card probably won't do much for you, and it actually will hurt you.
If you even moderately use Planeswalkers, like if you have, I'd go 4 or more. It might be a little bit. That might be a little low, but if you have 4 or more, like the chances that you see one when you see this card by the time you've got 6 mana are not insignificant.
Yeah. For me, though, I plan on summing it in, like, a Breya deck, just because, like, I don't run that many Planeswalkers to begin with in Breya, and it just has so much artifact synergy already.
Yeah, and you can do stuff like cheat it in with
Metalworker, yeah.
or I'm thinking of the guy that switches graveyard and graveyard and play, the welder, goblin welder.
Yeah, goblin welder, you can cheat it in, and it just draws you incremental advantage until they get rid of it. And it buffs your Thopters, which is nice.
So Immortal Sun, I think we're all...
Albert loves it. I'm hyped for it.
Albert's super hyped
Honestly,
for it.
Cards like this make my eyes go wide. Like, it's everything that I want on one card. And on top of that, you can't play with your Planeswalkers. I couldn't get that one. You don't get to use it now. Like, Teferi? Bye-bye. No Teferi.
There's no Teferi right now anyway. All right, so I guess I give it a tepid. Yeah, it's pretty all right. It sounds like Justin might be around the same, and Albert.
I'm around the same. Yeah,
So,
it just
defies us completely.
It's not gonna see as much play as the other two choices that we've got, like Paradox Engine or Panharmonicon, but it will still see play. Like it is just a sweet card.
Yeah, so... Me being all Timmy-like, big cards make me happy. And when they do a lot of things, they make me very happy. But coming from the more, okay, if you look into the competitive aspect, I can see where you're coming from. But in Commander, where there's a lot of people who are just like, ooh, I like big cards, I can definitely see this one seeing play everywhere. Especially if they don't like Planeswalkers. And I know a lot of people who don't like Planeswalkers.
It also looks like an arc reactor from Iron Man, so it's pretty cool looking.
That's even another plus.
I don't know, Albert. Talking about those people who play competitive EDH and you just made Breakfast Hulk is a little bit...
Shh. Hey, you got to start somewhere. I
Got
saw
it.
one of the commanders I like to play. I made the deck. Sorry.
Kill Albert first. Got it.
All right, so moving on, let's talk about the next card on here, which is Tetzimoc Primal Death. It's 4 and 2 black for legendary creature, Elder Dinosaur. It's a black dinosaur. It's got Death Touch. It's a 6/6. And the real juicy part comes where you can pay a black, reveal it from your hand to put a prey counter on target creature. And you can only activate that ability during your turn. When it enters the battlefield, you destroy all creatures with a prey counter on it that your opponents control.
This one would be very interesting to try to make a commander deck based around. With, like, Quicksilver Amulet and just a way to put it back into your hand and just dump all your black mana and then blow up their field.
The problem is black has so many better options. Like, mono black in general has so many better options for commanders. I don't know. My problem with this card is it's not in the Naya colors, which is what you want dinosaurs to be in.
Well,
Like,
right now.
yeah, that's true. I mean, if they do promote a heavier black playstyle for the dinosaur deck, I can see it as like in Game Ender.
See, I'm hoping that this is a sign of fixing an issue I have with the current limited format, and that is that we saw a really good thing in Iconic Masters. We've seen it in Unstable. I kind of touched on it a little bit where you got to read the packs for their content, for what colors were open, and you got to have a reasonable amount of synergy just going in the colors that were open. And that's not something I really felt like you had from Ixalan, where if somebody got their colors locked in on an archetype, their deck would just be like way strictly better. Whereas in Iconic Masters, as a good example, from the very little of it we were able to play, given the release schedule this season, it seemed like that was very much not the case. If you started drafting good cards, you could find the synergies in whatever was open.
Yeah, I'm with you. There was no flexibility in Ixalan.
Yeah, and I'm hoping that black dinosaurs and and we don't really have anything else that I think hits that note. But Black Dinosaurs is a good start.
Yeah.
Black Dinosaurs, just even a few that says like I splashed black, and by the way, I have Tetsamok, which that's a great card in limited. That is.
I mean, 6 mana in Guruk's Wake is pretty sweet. I agree with you there.
Yeah, and like the threat of activation is going to keep their board controllable, right?
Yeah,
like,
they're not going to overcommit like they would usually do.
Yeah, because it's asymmetrical, right? Like you don't have to, it's not like a board wipe where if they commit, then you have to commit, and it's this battle where one of you is going to tap out to play a spell that wipes both of you, and then they're going to get to untap and play something. No, this is great.
I do like how they stuck that little extra bit where it has Death Touch. It's like, it's already a 6/6, but if you want to go extra death, yeah, it has Death Touch.
I don't know, Justin. Galta Primal Hunger.
Yeah, that's true.
And that's a great segue into what is Galta Primal Hunger. If you haven't seen it, it was one of the first cards, if not the first card spoiled in Ixalan. In Rivals of Ixalan, rather.
It's a giant T-Rex.
Yeah. It's Galta Primal Hunger. It's cost 10 and 2 green. So 12 mana, not accounting for reduction. And it's a legendary creature, Elder Dinosaur. I think, by the way, if you see Tetsamok, Galta, they're both Elder Dinosaurs. I think we're going to see a Praetor-like thing.
That'd be cool.
Ooh.
Yeah. I see the Johnnies going crazy already. Like,
I'm calling it now. There's going to be an Elder Dinosaur in every color.
I can see that. Yeah, I agree with you there.
So it is, its ability says it costs X less to cast, where X is the total power of creatures you control. And it's a 12/12 trample.
Big
so
boy.
a 12/12 trample with cost reduction. That thing is enormous, and it gets absolutely destroyed by Tetsamok.
Yeah. I've seen people online already try to brew how quickly they can get this thing out, though. And people have come up with some pretty interesting ways on how to like drop it as soon as like turn 3.
In which format? In standard?
Standard, yeah.
Turn 3 Galta in standard. Yeah.
That'd be pretty scary.
I mean, what do you even do about that in this format?
Can't fatal push it.
It's the least fatal pushable card ever.
God.
You can walk the blanket though.
That's true. You can make it walk the plank. Just push that big dinosaur off the boat.
That's a really hilarious visual
I like
image.
the visual on that one.
Now, my hope, though, for draft, for pre-release especially, is we had this situation going on last pre-release for Ixalan, is whenever anyone drafted a dinosaur deck, they start humming the Jurassic Park theme as they play their deck. I hope they do that with this one as well, just because it is a giant T-Rex.
I just want to bring like an iPad and just like play that scene in Jurassic Park where the water starts vibrating because the T-Rex is coming up behind, and then drop that thing a turn later.
Yeah. This makes Gishath look like a nobody.
Well, I mean, from a gigantic perspective,
Yeah.
sure,
Yeah.
but Gishath is a way better card.
Oh, it is. Like, the fact that it lets you search out your deck,
No,
like
the
dinos
fact-
out of your deck.
The fact that you have to be across 3 colors makes it somewhat difficult.
But if this and Gishath got into a fist fight, this would definitely win.
Oh yeah, eat it.
Yeah, Galta wins that. It's an Elder Dragon.
She's an
Dinosaur.
appetizer for this thing. She can still eat more.
So, what about the other big mana card that we got spoiled?
You talking about the red one?
Yeah.
All right, so it's Brass's Bounty. It is a sorcery that costs 6 and a red, so 7 mana. And it says, for each land you control, create a colorless treasure artifact token with tap, sacrifice, add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. So it's treasure.
Yeah.
So it's Boundless Realms, but
Yeah.
with treasure. And
in
so
red.
it's not permanent, and it is red. It is in red. That's something kind of worth noting. Got 7 mana though.
Yeah. One thing I will say, the art is beautiful in foil. It's like a beach covered in gold.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's really pretty. And the flavor text, why squabble for trinkets when we can be living large off of all this gold? Admiral Beckett Brass. It is 7 mana, which pretty much pushes it into the commander category. But it's a sweet card. And it is like pseudo mana ramp in red.
Yeah, but
And-
red has pseudo mana ramp. Like better pseudo mana ramp.
Yeah.
I'm super down on this card. Like, I don't think I'm gonna put it in like anything without specifically searching out putting it in something.
But guys,
I think I'm gonna.
guys,
Yes.
you guys are failing to realize it says create artifacts, and in red there's a nice little dragon called Hellkite Tyrant
Oh my
that
god.
wins you the game.
I can't believe it. I didn't see that. Yeah, it wins you the game when you hit 20, and you get to steal your opponents.
And
when has
red
Hellkite
and-
Tyrant
and-
ever failed
and
to
have
find
you-
20 artifacts?
Have you played a wart deck that spits
Oh
out
my
the
God.
lands?
Well, no. If you, what about this with like Pyromancer's Goggles, where you can double it? You play this with like using Pyromancer's Gauntlet, double it, and then maybe Dualcaster Mage it in, triple it.
Alright, I wouldn't cut in, except my idea apparently didn't quite get across. Hi, I'm Mike. Basically, the same way that you would normally win with the counter card that you have to pay for later, you gift the copies to somebody else, swing with Hellkite Tyrant, steal their copies of the treasure artifacts.
Oh, okay. You're talking about hive minding him.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you
I
play
think-
hive mind, you boundless realms, and then you swing with Hellkite Tyrant to win.
I don't know. I'm brewing a really fun Clue treasure deck in
Yeah.
Grixis with this card.
Mm.
With Garapu Aether Grid as a win con, with Marionette Master as a win con,
But
with,
guys-
Now, Marionette Master is real.
with Revel in Riches as a win con.
Well, I mean,
Mechanized production.
Mechanized Production would be pretty fun. Like I mean, it's by no means gonna be like super competitive, but it looks like a lot of fun.
so I will say though, you say this, but holy crap, you did mention a card that is super powerfully synergistic here, and that is Marionette Master.
Yeah.
Right, like if you can, the problem is you have to have the lands in play, which means you have to be like actually ramping them out to get it aggressively timed.
Yeah.
But if you can hit a Marionette Master with its Fabricate counters alone on it, and then drop this card, forget about having an Anointed Procession. That'd be just nuts, right? Like, there might be something really like super edge casey here, like some little troll deck that you could take to like 5-0 on a competitive league and get some people.
Oh, wait, you're talking about a 60 card for this?
Yeah, when I think
Huh.
no, dude, when I think Marionette Master and Brass's Bounty, and I want to actually break that combination, I'm not doing it on somebody with 40 life. I'm doing it on somebody with 20 life. One person. And I did try to brew a pirate deck back at the very beginning of Ixalan's release that I called lovingly Espar. It was Anointed Procession, it was Marionette Master, and it was like Treasure Map and things that generated treasure, like Prosperous Pirates, and that
sounds super janky.
it was real janky. It definitely made a lot of people mad on MTGO competitive leagues, but it never got better than 3-2, and I got kind of tired of tuning it and needed to practice some actual real Magic. But maybe all right.
Yeah.
I'll upgrade Brass's Bounty to a maybe jank, right? From a completely unplayable, but not for me.
How about the next card we got?
Captain's Hook?
Yeah.
All right. So Captain's Hook is an equipment. It costs 3 to play and 1 to equip. And it says, equipped creature gets +2/+0, has menace, and is a pirate in addition to its other creature types. Whenever Captain's Hook becomes unattached from a permanent, destroy that permanent.
I really, really wish this card wasn't 3 mana.
I know, right? Because you know, the most similar thing, the thing it reminds me of the second I see it, with like the majority of the text on it is Grafted Exoskeleton.
Yeah.
Right. It costs 3 to play.
Yeah.
That one does cost 2 to equip, if I'm not mistaken. But this one costs 1.
Yeah.
And it has the same clause of whenever it becomes attached, destroy that permanent. But it gives it +3/+2 and infect.
Yeah.
Like, just strictly, just so
Like,
much better.
If
and it
this
is
thing
2 to
was
equip,
2
right?
mana with the 1 to equip that it already is, it would see play.
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely. But I mean, you compare it to Pirate's Cutlass, right? Like
Yeah.
this one's at rare. Pirate's Cutlass was 3/2.
Was
but
like
when you played
common,
it,
right?
it
Yeah.
instant equipped.
Yeah.
I think it's uncommon. I'm not 100%.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm being corrected here. It looks like Grafted Exoskeleton is actually 4 mana to play, not 3.
Yeah. But it also halves your opponent's life total by giving that creature infect.
It halves your opponent's life total in Standard,
Yeah.
in 60 card.
And in Commander, it cuts it into 4 pieces.
And picks one.
Yeah.
Cut my
And-
life into pieces.
and makes a lot of enemies as soon
Yeah.
as you play it.
Like, the only thing I can see this, like, it's not even going to be playable in most formats, is, like, possibly a Commander deck.
I mean, I'll
Like,
take,
centered around pirates, and it has a lot of, like hijack abilities.
I mean, I'll take it in limited. Pretty.
Oh, yeah.
Pretty high, right? Like,
Yeah.
It's like it gives minutes. Like it's a repeatable +2
It's a
+0
sweet card,
and
it's a
evasion.
sweet card in limited. I agree with that. Yeah.
But in constructed, I just
Yeah.
I'll pass.
If it
It's
was
just
2
better
mana,
things.
it'd see standard play.
Yeah, if Pirates manages to make it.
Yeah, that's true.
All right. So moving on. We've got a few cards left now. Let's go ahead and get.
Can we talk about my favorite one?
Is it Storm the Vault?
Yes, I love Storm the Vault.
I am super high on this card. This of all the cards that I've seen, this one I'm convinced is going to make Standard great again.
Yeah.
All right. So as nobody listening to us knows, but probably does because I feel like it's a pretty universal feeling. Standard's in a really not ideal place right now.
Yeah.
We're all tired of Teamer. We're all looking for different solutions. You're starting to see the Thopters decks, the Flyers decks, and boy, does this scream to those decks. Look at me, I'm here.
Oh my god.
So let's read it out. It's a transform card. We'll start with the front side. The main side, it costs 2 to play. Or sorry, it costs
4,
2,
yeah.
a red and a blue, so a total of 4 mana for a legendary enchantment. Whenever one or more creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, create a colorless treasure artifact token. At the beginning of your upkeep or of your instep, if you control 5 or more artifacts, transform Storm the Vault. That's a really easy transform to hit. Like
super
out of all the
easy.
transforms we've seen, this one might be one of the easier ones. Legion's Landing was easy too.
Yeah.
So the backside, as with the transform cards, is a land. We're exploring some vaults here. It's called a Vault of Catlacan.
Catlican. Yeah.
Catlacan. Yeah, that sounds way better. It's a legendary land. This one is legendary. It says tap, add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool, and tap, add blue to your mana pool for each artifact you control, which I believe is what Nefalia's Academy?
No, it's Tolarian Academy.
Tolarian Academy.
Banned in Commander. It's so good.
It's a Tolarian Academy, and holy cow. This thing is going to shake things up.
Oh my
right?
god. Well, first things first, I'm going to buy a foil for my Brea deck. Because
That
this
makes a
card
lot of
is going to
sense.
be busted in Commander. Especially those artifact decks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But, like, it's, like, I would even say it's, like, better than Tolarian Academy. Because I think Tolarian Academy, you can tap for any color. You can only tap for that artifact ability.
Yeah, it was like Cradle, right?
Yeah.
Like that's one thing they've done with these
Yeah.
flip ones because they're harder to achieve. So obviously they shouldn't be able to be made
like-
dead in the same way.
Like, I know we were harping on Captain's Hook for being 3 mana, but 4 mana for Storm the Vault, it's so easy to do in that artifact deck. Like that Thopter deck that's in Standard right now.
Yeah, the Thopter deck. I think there's some real promise in Grixis Improvise.
Yeah, and the fact
which
that...
is a deck I super love and
Yeah.
wish I piloted it to great success. I wish.
And it transforms on your end step, so they have to have instant speed removal for it the turn you drop it, because usually by turn 4, you're going to be able to set up like around 5 artifacts.
Yeah, well, if you turn 3 Maverick Thopterist, which happens in that Thopter deck, like what, 50% of the time
Yeah.
or more, right? You turn 3 Maverick Thopterist, and you turn 4 Storm the Vault, like Storm the Vault, swing with everything, get your extra dudes, your extra treasures, and then flip it end of turn, and now
Yeah.
you've got this awesome mana rock.
And now you have 1 land to use your decoction module for.
That's
You don't
yeah.
even have to pay 4 mana. This one land will get you 1 or 2 decoction module triggers off with that artifact deck.
It is an intensely powerful looking card, and I think it might be the thing that shakes up Teamer a little bit. That finally says, "Hey, how about my value though?"
Yeah. This card, like especially in Standard, but man, I'm gonna get myself a copy for Commander like right away.
Oh yeah, I'm going 5 copies instantly. My 4 for Constructed, 1 for Commander.
Yeah.
Like this, the second it comes out, because this card is going to be in high demand.
Yeah.
And I'm going to stock up on Cross and Grips.
How have you not already? All right. So getting into the last couple cards, they are reprints.
We have a few, yeah.
We're gonna cover them pretty quickly. The first one is one we've known about. I think this one might have been the one we knew about before Galta even. It's Silvergill Adept. For those who weren't around during this time or don't play Modern Merfolk, Silvergill Adept is a 2/1 creature. It costs 1 and a blue to play. It's a Merfolk wizard. And as an additional cost to cast it, you either reveal a Merfolk card from your hand or pay 3 mana. So it actually costs 5 to play it if you don't have a Merfolk in your hand, which is not really a thing.
In a Merfolk deck, you're probably gonna have a Merfolk in hand.
And when Silvergill Adept enters the battlefield, draw a card. So it's a 2/1 for 2, effectively, that draws a card and gives your opponent a little bit of information that they already knew because you're playing Merfolk.
Yeah.
This card's good.
This card's sweet. It's a nice reprint, and I have a lot of Merfolk buddies that are really hyped for it.
Yeah, like it's gonna help Merfolk come along. I mean, my main note on it here is a good 2-drop still, as it was before. Doesn't beat Long Tusk Cub.
Yeah. The real question is this good enough to make Merfolk playable, like Merfolk Tribal playable in Standard?
Doesn't beat Merfolk or Long Tusk Cub, so it's questionable. Obviously, the rest of the set can pan out differently. Maybe we'll see more answers there.
Elvish Visionary saw a lot of play when it was in Standard, and this is pretty much just an Elvish Visionary for the Merfolk deck.
Yeah, it's true. Would Elvish Visionary have seen as much play?
That's true.
Teamer Energy was in that standard?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't even remember what that looked like. What that standard looked like.
Yeah.
I mean, Merfolk needs help. This alone isn't going to do it. We might see. It's very realistic that we're going to see other cards as spoilers continue that bring it there, but it's not there.
We need a Lord and a few more 1 or 2 drops, and I think it. Like Merfolk set for Standard. Just
a good Lord would go a long way. It can't. I'm not sure because there isn't like a spreading season in the format.
That's true.
So one of the already printed Lords probably won't get there because Teamer Energy rarely runs into their basic islands. A reasonable amount of the time, and almost no other decks are. I know. I guess there are a few decks that play. That play basic islands, so it's not like they'd be completely dead cards, but I would expect to see something either like a Spreading Seas or a different Lord.
Yeah. Now, the real reprint I'm happy about it is really, really beautiful art. Foil Evolving Wilds.
Evolving Wilds continues to be in the format.
Yeah.
Again and again and again, and I love Evolving Wilds. I think it's super great.
Great in Commander.
Great in Limited. Like it's a great addition to Limited for when you need to go a little bit wider.
Yeah.
It is the League promo, I believe.
Ooh.
Yeah.
So there's that as well.
So you got to sign up for your local store's League to get it.
Such a compelling format.
Oh God, League Ixalan sounds awful.
Oh,
yeah,
no.
we don't have time to get into that right now, but maybe one of these days I'll grace the podcast with a short segment about how I feel about
a rant. You mean
the current segment? Segment makes me sound a little bit less like a lunatic. About how I feel about that. Although everybody's probably got the idea already. I've got plenty of suggestions. You can email me, wizards, Tweet me, whatever. I'll be down to help you out, and tell you all kinds of things about how I think League can be improved.
Now, there were also 2 other cards revealed. The intro deck Planeswalkers were also spoiled. There's Vraska, who's a mono black Planeswalker, and Angrath, Minotaur Pirate, who's a red black Planeswalker. Both of them cost about 6 mana.
Exactly 6 mana. Which
Yeah.
is pretty par for the course, I think, for the dual decks
Yeah.
at this point.
And also par for the course for a lot of the intro deck Planeswalkers. They're sort of mediocre.
But, so, in a lot of cases, and it's not always quite that literal, but in a lot of cases, you can take a look at the Planeswalker deck Planeswalkers, and you can kind of see a little bit the theme that they're going
Yeah.
for, right? Like, Gideon specifically was super on. The Jace from this recent set, though, was just way different.
Yeah.
So let's see what we got here. We'll cover these and then we'll wrap it up. Vraska Scheming Gorgon is 4 and 2 black. Legendary Planeswalker Vraska. Creature +2. Creatures you control get +1/+0 until end of turn. -3, destroy target creature. And -10. 10. Jeez. Until end of turn, creatures you control gain Death Touch, and whenever this creature deals damage to an opponent, that player loses the game. This looks a lot like
Par for the
Vraska.
course.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
she had destroy target creature before, if I'm not mistaken. At way less than -10, she had
I think it was a -7.
a similar effect. Yeah.
She would create 3 assassins that had, when this creature hits an opponent, they lose the game.
Yeah, so I mean, overall, you can do some cheeky things because it is creatures you control. So if you're going real wide, you can just end some people. Really, like this could be funny in Commander, where you get a little bit like more casual Commander, where you get a little bit of a chance to build a board,
Yeah, like a token deck or something.
and you could just end the game
Yeah.
with this thing, like end a 6-player game with enough
Yeah.
tokens, right? Like that's kind of interesting.
Yeah. Just for constructed play, I don't think so.
These things never make it into
Yeah.
constructed play. Has one ever?
Not that I can think of.
Nope.
Nope.
No.
So-
All right.
The only thing that I can see that's good about Vraska is she's in doubling season range. So if you doubling season and then play her, you can probably end the game that same turn.
I mean, but what Planeswalker is not in doubling season range?
Speaking of Angrath, whose ult is 11.
Oh my gosh. All right, read ahead, kids. So Angrath Minotaur Pirate. It's 4, a black and a red for a legendary Planeswalker Angrath. +2, Angrath Minotaur Pirate deals 1 damage to target opponent and each creature that player controls. -3, return target pirate card from your graveyard to the battlefield. And -11, destroy all creatures target opponent controls. Angrath Minotaur Pirate deals damage to that player equal to their total power.
Vraska's better.
Yeah.
Just
I
a
mean,
little bit.
yeah. I mean, this effect. First of all, there's some kind of counter synergy here. You're +2ing to ping a guy and his creatures, which means you're probably trying to kill some of his creatures with it, ostensibly. And then you're -11ing, and you want them to have creatures to deal damage equal to their power to them. It just feels super underwhelming to me.
Extremely underwhelming.
And the -3, you can use it once. You can play the card and use it once. The -3 is return target pirate card from your graveyard to the battlefield. Okay, so you can use it once.
Yeah. There's a Liliana that does the same thing, and you can activate her twice.
Yeah, you can activate her twice, and I believe still have a loyalty left over, right?
Yeah.
She enters with 5.
Yeah.
So
That's Majesty, I believe.
And to be honest, looking at the -3 from Vraska in comparison to Angrath, I'd much rather, for a one-time use, destroy a very key creature than bring back a pirate that may or may not be good for my deck at the current moment.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah. No.
there
And
is
like,
some big pirates that we've seen. We're seeing more red ramp, right, from this Brass's Bounty. And last set we saw a really out of place looking 7-drop pirate in
Yeah.
Angrath's Marauders, I believe
Yeah.
is what it's called.
the double damage one.
Yeah, so maybe red is gonna maybe they'll print Seething Song. No, please no. But maybe that's a thing we're going to see with red. And Lannery Storm, there was actually an interesting red deck floating around at one point. I don't know what happened to the concept, but I saw it do okay. And that was the like big red deck where you play out Lannery Storm, and then you've got like Neheb, and you've got other mana producers, and you're pretty much just ramping out Glory Bringers and your Chandras and stuff like that, because Lannery Storm is great ramp. That card, it hasn't found its place yet. Maybe Captain's Hook might be all right for right, because thinking about it, maybe the reason Captain's Hook costs 3 is because pirates are going to be ramping.
I can see that.
Maybe because if you turn 3 Lannery Storm and then you turn 4 Captain's Hook equip, that's not an insignificant amount of damage. It's real easy to kill though, so still a problem.
Yeah.
They gotta solve that problem if they're gonna actually make it through. But pirates are crafty things. Maybe we'll see something. There's not enough cards yet to get a real read on it, but what I've got so far puts.
I mean, the rest of the cards released with these are sort of par for the course when it comes to intro decks. The one I think is interesting is Vraska's Conquistador, the 2-mana 2/1 that when it attacks or blocks, if you control Vraska Planeswalker, target opponent loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. But, like...
I mean, you gotta have a Vraska.
You gotta have a Vraska, yeah.
Like, we saw Vicious Conquistador, and that card's good, but this card...
the 1 mana,
None of these cards will make it into standard.
Not really.
And the Planeswalkers are the only thing we'll see in Commander. All right. So, wrapping up, we want to take the time while we're winding down to talk for a brief moment about what we're working on. Just the next deck that we are planning to bring to the table to torture each other so that we can then build for each other, and wrap in those e-breaks and just properly make each other all kinds of salty. And I think we'll start with not me. We'll start with Albert.
So right now I have a couple of brews, mostly for Commander, that I was thinking of. One of them I don't want to talk about because that one's a surprise. But one I saw an interesting take on a Sidisi deck. It was online, where it was essentially all artifacts, and it was really interesting because I would have never thought to play Sidisi that way. I figured it'd be like, oh, I'm just going to play a bunch of value things that I can sacrifice. But the way the guy played it, it looked really fast and really, really interesting. Not in a way that I would think to ever, like I said, play that Commander as. But the one I'm really building right now is kind of boring and vanilla. It is Karlov. I'm just picking up every little life gain piece that I can to throw this deck together and see how it goes. What about you, Justin? What are you building?
For me, I'm working on an Unmander deck right now, trying to still decide what I want to do with Unmander. Other than that, I have some other random Commander brews bouncing around in my head. I wanted to build like a lot more silly decks that really don't have a win con per se, but just end the game in a funny way. So I have a few brews like that, and specifically... most importantly, I'm actually I'm working on Standard right now, because the GP is actually about a month away at this point. So I'm practicing as much as possible, trying to figure out what deck I want to play for the Standard portion of the GP. How about you, Kyle?
What are you rolling? What are you bringing?
So right now I'm deciding I might just be boring and take Teamer Energy, but I'm also really, like, one of my pet cards is Approach of the Second Sun. It's sort of widely known at the shop that I'm sort of the Approach of the Second Sun guy, that, like, whenever I don't have anything to play, I'll just pull out my Approach deck. I'm also playtesting a little bit with Grixis Thopters. I've been having a lot of fun with that deck.
All right, so what I'm building, other than the previously mentioned Unmander stuff, the main 2 that I'm working on, randomly chosen from my big pile of legendary creatures, are Carador and Marith. I have Marith put together. I'm working on tuning it, and Carador is just a pile of cards and ideas and dreams. And then in Constructed, I try to bring something new to pretty much every week, but I played I played Blue White Cycling for a couple weeks in a row because that was really fun. So I'm going to have to switch it up now. I've been looking into a couple things, but I think I'm going to try to throw Grixis Improvise back together because I really want to play something with artifacts in it when Rivals comes out so that I can try and exploit Storm the Vault better than Justin can. All right, guys. Well, I think that gets it for us. This has been the cleanup step. And ironically enough, this is the cleanup step of the cleanup step. We're releasing this weekly. You can find us on YouTube right now. We're looking into other avenues for release as we speak, week by week. And let us know if there's questions you have, anything that you disagree with, anything that you want us to cover. I guess we can do a little bit of our plugs now, as well as talk about the store that's making this all possible. It's a Comic Collector Shop. It's located in Sunnyvale, California. We all play here several nights of the week. You can follow their Facebook page. Just look for Comic Collector Shop. If you're interested in Commander, let us know on there. Say something about it if you're in the area, and we can make sure that you get added to any Commander groups that are talking about when we're going to be playing. As for myself, probably the best way to find me is either through that store page or on Twitter. That's at SINS3I, or Sensei spelled terribly. What about you, Justin?
Yeah, I also play here. Not as much as Kyle, because I do live a little farther away. But you can usually find me on most social media avenues under Electric Spider. Usually just one word. I don't remember what my Twitter is. I rarely ever use it. So I'll have to get back to you on that. How about you, Albert?
So you can find me on the Facebook page for CCS or the Commander. If you guys want to play, let me know. Also, if you want, you could. Like I said, I'll probably be here playing Commander. So if you just walk in, probably be here.
Awesome. Well, thanks you guys for listening, and we'll see you again next week.